Welcome back to Basin Motorsports. So if you've been around for the channel for the last couple of years, you know a while ago I rescued a 1986 hatchback from a field a few hours away, cranked it up on the trailer, brought it home, and I started taking it apart probably around the end of last year. Now the more and more I dug through the 86, I found that most of the car was original. It was about 166,000 miles on it. And the trouble was, a lot along the way, a lot of repairs have been made on replacement parts that weren't exactly done right. So with every release out, you're probably wondering, why is it taking 3 months to get to this point with the engine? All I did was I took it out literally December 31st of 2019, set it on the ground, broke it apart for the engine and the transmission, put it on a stand, and then, well, what happened? So the last video I put out on the 86 was 3 months ago, and it was called the Stupid Tax. And the reason was, when I had taken apart this engine, I found that the timing cover itself, they had epoxied in one of the bolts. And to get that apart, well, I had to destroy the bolt, drill out the bolt, and I left you with that, ooh, this was not going to be a good repair. So since that point, what has happened is that I started, and this is probably in March, I started with the helicoil process, trying to get this back together. Now, if you've never done a helicoil, the essential part of it is you start by drilling out the stripped out hole, basically. You then run a tap in, a larger tap for a helicoil piece, which is basically wound wire, is what it essentially is. And that will actually go into the block, into the threads. And then that gives you your threads back. So I ended up having to do that on the timing cover of the 86 here. And long story short, as you can see, it's all back together. So that process worked. It was a lot less stressful than I thought. I really was getting kind of worried about it tapping into a block, but it ended up being absolutely a-okay. And so far, everything is held up. So beyond the helicoil process, the next thing was to get everything clean. Now everything behind me has been scrubbed down, so I used a kind of a small cup of simple green. I used a brass brush to scrub and even a toothbrush to kind of get into the small little cracks and everything in here. So I went from top to bottom on this engine, cleaned everything off, took all the valve covers off, I took the oil pan off, I took the exhaust manifolds off, spark plugs out, everything. I went around this thing top to bottom, cleaning off everything that I could to get every last bit of grease off of there. So now you can see I've repainted the valve covers and the oil pan. Those were scrubbed down completely, degreased, and then hit with some primer and paint. Everything else, that was aluminum, so you got steel, which is this piece, the timing cover. That was scrubbed down as best I could get. The aluminum heads shined up nicely. Those are just basically 3-cylinder aluminum heads for this V6. Manifolds brushed off nicely, new water pump, resealed gaskets, new engine mount. Spark plugs I've reused, but double check the gap and make sure to clean them out very well. Everything else looks pretty good. I was actually pretty happy with the manifold. It cleaned up. You know, I'd love for it to be gleaming and all that, but it's an aluminum manifold and everything else seems to be in pretty good shape. Pretty happy with that. Even you look at even to the wires themselves, they came out where you can see the lettering on them. Not perfect, but in pretty darn good shape, and I'm happy with it. And of course, a fresh Motorcraft oil filter. So while this doesn't seem like a whole lot of work to do, there's a lot of little pieces in there that took a little bit more extra time than I planned on. One thing was trying to get parts in here. You don't have to order everything online, and I'm trying to do this as cheap as possible, so a lot of the times I was ordering from Rock Auto, which would ship in and take about a week. So every time I'd find a new part, got it in, took me about a week, so I was just waiting on that. Got to have the nice days to be able to paint, and the grease on this was so thick, I can't even explain it. I mean, it was thick grease. So with that, it took me a long time to really scrub this all down, to redo all the seals on it, and just took some time. Along the way, honestly, I felt like I got pretty unmotivated on trying to get this thing fixed. One of the biggest things I have a problem with on this is that I'm trying to put it back as close to factory as possible. when I did the wide body, which you can see right here, the wide body itself, I knew that thing was going to be modified from the beginning, and it was going to be to my taste. So if I stripped it all off and, you know, repainted it in a different color, it was fine. This point, what I really wanted to do was put it back so that when anybody popped the hood, they could probably tell that it was cleaned up in that, but they wouldn't think, they really wouldn't notice too much. And that was the thing. I wanted to put this back to factory stock, resto mod, whatever you want to call it. But it took me 3 months, which is a little embarrassing to say to get to this point to put it all back together, but that's okay. Let's talk about what's going on next. Probably the next thing I'm going to work on is getting out the K-member, steering member, or the steering rack down here, power steering pump, and just go through and clean all the stuff out and get all the rest of this grease out of there. Shouldn't be too bad. It's more of dirty grease rather than like slimy grease. So typically it scrapes off, no big deal, but it's just going to take some time. It's just going to take some time to go through and get all that out. Thankfully, it's all contained in the engine bay because the transmission tunnel is pretty darn clean, as I've shown before. So once I get all this out, it should be just fine to start putting everything back together. Now, I've also told you in previous videos that I'm still furloughed, and that is the case. So I'm a month in now from furlough. I honestly don't even know if I'm going to go back to work. I'm kind of just waiting day to day. Talked to my company, an HR rep there. She had no indication that I would be going back or an ETA when I'd be going back. And there was a clerical error, which is, it's been crazy. 4 weeks in, I still have no unemployment coming in. So being without, I guess, a salary or anything like money coming in for a month has been painful. I'll just say it that. It's just flat eating away any kind of savings. So I've been looking for other things to do to make a few bucks. So I went to the junkyard, I don't know, a couple weeks ago I think. I went down to the salvage yard that I always go to. They typically have a few Foxes there. They don't get rid of them, and there's really nobody in town that goes down there. So when I show up, I typically clean out all the stuff that's valuable. Case in point, I got a set of Capri. These are off of a 79 Capri. These are sail panels. So my intent with these is I am going to refinish them, and I'm going to do it at the same time that I do the 86s. The 86s will be done in charcoal. These ones here, these ones are actually black previously, but I do have charcoal that matches the 85, 86, which is appropriate for the 86 obviously, and I may do them in charcoal, like the gray, the smoke gray versus the black. Haven't decided, but these will get sanded down similar to what I did for the wide body. What I'll do for the 86 also, I'll sand them down, do some body work on them or some filler, and then I will paint them. These will be for sale, so if you want them in this state, or if you want them done in either gray or black, I'll give you the choice because it doesn't matter to me, it's just paint. If you want these, contact me before I get too far in and we'll talk about a price. I have no problem selling them like this. I'll tell you what's going on with these things. Otherwise, these are going to go up on probably eBay or something like that. Either way, let me know. So the transmission mount on the 86 was bad. One side of it actually had broken the welds on it. And I was thinking I was going to have to grind it down, probably MIG weld it, and I probably will repair the original one. But I actually found one of these laying in the yard. They had taken out the engine transmission out of the car, just left this laying next to the car, so I scooped it up, cleaned it up. You can kind of see it's scraped out, it's cleaned, and this is all just surface rust, so I'm probably going to paint this black so it doesn't rust anymore. But this is ready to go. I spent about a couple hours trying to clean this thing off, but the bushings are still decent, so I'm going to reuse this on the 86, and this was pretty cheap to do, thankfully. And probably the last significant piece was that I actually got a good set of trunk carpet. These came out of a convertible. I have not tried them in the coupe to see if they are the same. I hope they are, because these just need to be vacuumed, kind of scrubbed. You know, they're dirty. They're dirty. They're 30 years old, but they're actually in really good shape. I was surprised. So again, I'm going to clean these up and I'm going to put them up for sale. If you want them in this condition or anything else, talk to me. I will sell these. I will ship these, no problem. These are your choice. If you need them, want them, I'll confirm if they fit in the coupe or not. And if they do, ooh, you know those things are going to be valuable in pretty good shape. So you know where to find me. Hook me up. Otherwise, I'm selling out of everything. I'm getting rid of all the extra parts. Unfortunately, with no money coming in, I got to do something extra. So I'm getting cranking on the 86. Got to get everything degreased in there, which will probably take at least a good week of working on it. Engine's ready to go. I'm itching to get this thing fired up, double check for leaks. Fresh transmission, you know that I did. And then we're on to the vinyl wrap. And I am going to go as fast as possible getting this thing done. So it's the beginning of June. I make no estimation on when it will be done, but it's going to be ASAP. It needs to be going out of here. So with that, guys, thanks for watching. It's embarrassing to say this took 3 months to get this engine put back together, but it is. And I've got refreshed motivation. So that's it. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching Basin Motorsports. Out.